Hello, and welcome to this course on guaranteeing your growth in your digital agency by using your data appropriately and much better than you probably are today. My name's Damian. I'm the managing director of Globital. At Globital, I'll tell you a little bit about Globital in a sec. We help digital agencies run better businesses, better agencies. And the reason why I wanted to bring this content to you is when I worked this out, and it was one conversation I had, but when I worked this out, it really changed the way that I manage my data with our business, and it had a huge impact on planning growth and making sure that the growth that was our goals was basically guaranteed. We could achieve any goal we set. So I've put together a bit of a presentation for you, which I will share now. And I'm really looking forward to taking you through this content, as I hope it'll be, and I'm pretty sure it'll be as transformative to your agency as it was to my business and the way I manage businesses generally. So guaranteed growth, transforming data into dollars for digital agency success. I've tried to split this this content up into a few very logical, short logical short sections so that you can go through it in a very deliberate manner and put all the pieces in place as you go. So this is the first session. So the first session is going to be a little bit of background information about how or what we're doing and how we're going to pull it together. And then we'll really get into the nuts and bolts from session 2. So first, a little bit about Globital. Globital, if you don't know of us, we're a wholesale fulfillment partner, like a white label digital agency, our industry calls it. But we're white label fulfillment, 100% invested in your success. The only thing we do is white label services for digital agencies. We don't go direct to market. I believe that the white label industry is very different and should have very different goals to the digital agency industry. And if we were going direct, it's not only a conflict of interest with what you're doing because we're chasing your clients, which I don't want to do, but also we are probably doing different things rather than focusing on white label services. So we're a full service digital agency, 100% invested in your success. A lot of agencies use us so that they can move to high value add strategies, things like offering strategy and consulting to their clients rather than working on the nuts and bolts of fulfillment. Our systems are designed so to ensure we can handle the business. You don't have to worry about HR issues and recruitment, resignations and all that kind of stuff. If you get a big client or you have a stellar month and all of a sudden you've got too much business to handle, our systems are set up to handle big influxes of new business, as well as to manage downsizing during the economic periods where we all shrink. So the whole point is we take that risk off you, and we price our services 100% with your margins in mind. We ensure that at industry rates you can make a good profit by using our services for fulfillment. So we basically, the way we've structured our business is that if you fail as an agency, we're going to fail as a white label provider, so white label support for your industry. So we're very, very focused on ensuring you succeed, which is why I've put together this piece of content, this piece of training to, basically help you navigate your way through growth and goal setting and goal achieving, all that kind of stuff. Look, if you're a startup agency and you have 2 or 3 clients, you're probably not at the stage to manage this content yet. Be great to know it in the background, in the back of your mind as you do grow, so you can set up your business and your financials and your data in a very positive way. But for implementation today, it's probably aimed for and very relevant for agencies that maybe have 2 or 3 employees, 10 to 15 clients turning over $250,000 and upwards. So, I guess a yardstick is, do you have a profit and loss that you look at every month? If you've got a profit and loss you look at every month, this is going to be a good piece of content for you to go through. So Globital, as I mentioned, I'm the managing director. A little bit of background as to what I see and why I can bring this information to you, and with some level of confidence that is going to be impactful for your business. So first, we invoice hundreds of agencies every month. So the agencies that come back to us share with us all their challenges that they're having, and gives me the chance to see what the patterns are with challenges that agencies are having day in, day out. On top of that, we, to exacerbate that sort of pattern seeking that I see, we communicate with thousands of agencies, through our obviously email database, social media profiles. We've got a couple of social media groups specifically for digital agencies. If you'd like to know a bit about them, have a look for the Digital Marketing Dream Team on Facebook, or the AI-powered digital agency group on LinkedIn. The latter one's a bit more focused on integrating AI into agencies. But, our whole team, our whole business talks to agencies all around the world, day in, day out, month in, month out. We get a really good feel for what problems agencies are facing. And I assume that having come here to have a look at this coursework, you're one of those agencies who is facing, similar challenges to all the other agencies. And we also see the things that work and the things that don't work as far as solving those problems. So hopefully in putting content like this together for you, we can shorten the time that you spend overcoming your challenges, because you get to not make the mistakes that other agencies have made and go direct to the solution to the problem as fast as you can. And those, these problems, they're not specific to agencies either. I mean, a digital agency is a small, medium-sized business in professional services in a normal economy throughout the Western world, the Western economic world. It's exactly the same as most small businesses in professional services, and indeed most small and medium-sized businesses throughout all industries. But where this course particularly came from is I had a conversation with a guy called Murray Dalmaida. He's in the Franchising Hall of Fame in Australia. He's made a number of built a number of franchise systems, done very, very well. One of his franchises, Donut King, at one point was distributing the second most amount of coffee through Australia. Such was the success of that business. The only person that beat him with coffee distribution in Australia was Qantas, and they were giving it away for free. So it gives you a little bit of insight about who Murray Dalmaida is. And in the conversation we were having, one of the things he said to me was, that most businesses that do fail because of one thing. And the one thing that they miss is understanding their capital needs. They fail because they're undercapitalized. They don't hit their goals. They don't cover their bases. They don't grow with appropriate systems because they don't have the capital to implement the things that they need to do. And I think I know percentages are always a little bit of are they made up? I don't know. But the percentages he gave were in the 80%. 80% of businesses plus, I think it was 85 or 84 or something like that, but fail because they're undercapitalized. And then that was that idea was a seed in my mind. It's like, at the time I was like, I have no idea what my capital needs are. I have no idea what I need. I have these goals, but I don't know what they actually mean as I go towards them. And so that started a journey for me for uncovering what I actually need for capital in my business, understanding that thoroughly, and then that gave me data and information that I could use to plan my year and my 3 year based on what strategic plans I had in place. So this is the journey I went through to understand that is what I want to take you through with this course. So I hope you find it completely 100% transformative for your business, as I did with mine. And I'd love to get your feedback. Find me on LinkedIn, Damian Papworth, and let us know what you think. So let's get into it. So the first bit is, one thing as agencies, quite often we will tell businesses or ask businesses that we're serving, what are your numbers? What is your cost per acquisition? What is your conversion rate? All this kind of stuff. But when I push with the agencies I speak to, quite often we don't know it for our own business. So we push our clients to know these numbers so we can build it into our tactics, our marketing tactics, our digital agency products, but we don't actually know them ourselves. So I'll just, as I just want to push to you as we're going through this session, I'll ask you some questions. What's your cost per acquisition? And I'm talking about a lead here specifically. What's your cost per acquisition for a lead? Do you know? For us, and across all our marketing, it's probably around $200. So I know it's a little bit over $200. We look at this every month. Okay, what is your conversion rate? And that's from a lead to an invoice. Basically, a client is someone that you invoice. What's your conversion rate? Do you know specifically what your conversion rate is? For ours sounds pretty bad. I think it's more a reflection of the bulk of leads we get each month, but ours and the size of our database. Ours is around 3%, so just under 3%. Obviously, we have 3 or 4 steps in our funnel, and it gets much better. It looks much better. It feels much better as we go. Like, for example, our sales meeting to client is over 50%. But from the very first, into our funnel, the lead to client is around 3%. But do you know that data? You should know it. You should know it well enough that it rolls off your tongue. Some others. What is the average lifetime value of your client, of a client of yours? What is your client attrition rate? Over 12 months, what percentage of clients do you lose? When do your clients on average leave? So it's a little bit different to an attrition rate. For example, if you're doing SEO, do they leave after 10 months of SEO? Do they leave after 15 months? Do you know this figure? You should know this figure. It's really important to your business. What's your forecasted revenue to the end of the financial year? Do you know what that is? So one of the things that I've noticed with agencies and with small businesses generally is we don't really live and breathe these figures. And particularly as agencies, the reason for that is we use them for marketing tactics. So we use them when we want to plug in to a Google ads campaign or a Meta ads campaign. We want to know how much to invest and what we can expect to get on the other side. But there's another way we can use this data. We can use it strategically. We can use it to actually work out, exactly what we need to do in our business. And that's a little bit more of what I want to share with you with this course. But I think if you understood the power of this data as far as, the big scale strategy, the top level strategy of your business, I think you would have as an intimate understanding and knowledge of these figures in your business day in, day out, every day. It'd be as intimate as there's the relationship I have with these figures. And the reason my relationship with these figures is so intimate is that they feed right into the top level strategy of growth for our business. And knowing these and applying these figures all but guarantees that we hit our growth targets every year. So if you don't know these, what these figures are for your business, it's probably a good idea before you proceed. It's absolutely a good idea. Let me rephrase that. It's absolutely a good idea before we proceed with this work to go and get your current data. So work out what your cost per acquisition is, and maybe do it over the last 12 months, 6 months, 3 months, and last month. Your conversion rate, lead to client, understand the lifetime value of your clients, attrition rate. You probably don't need that on average. When your clients leave, you can leave that for later. Really good to know with client services. For example, if you know all your SEO clients leave after 14 months, maybe you can implement a 2-month client service blitz from 12 months to 14 months and get them signed up for another 12 months. Maybe that's good intelligence to have. And your forecasted revenue for the end of the financial year. That's quite handy too. So go and do that homework and get that data before you start the next session of this coursework. But when I went through my journey and understood this equation, what I realized is, this is probably the core insight that I have. What I realized was that business is a puzzle. So business is a puzzle, and we have all the pieces. We just don't know it. So because we don't know what all the pieces are, we only manage and strategize our businesses with a subset of the pieces of the puzzle. And if you've ever done a puzzle, you know how frustrating it is when you get to the end and there's 3 pieces that have been lost and you can't complete the puzzle. Well, that's what we tend to do with our businesses. We tend to operate with a bunch of pieces missing, and that means we don't get the full picture of what we should be getting, which makes planning difficult, which means hitting goals difficult, and we pretty much are flying by the seat of our pants. We got to the point where I was talking about business being a puzzle, and if we have all the pieces in the puzzle, which we do, we just don't know about them yet, we can pretty much plan our growth and achieve it all but guaranteed. So we're going to have a look at the first step of that today. And this step entails having a good look at your goals. This is a really important setup for achieving goals, is setting them up and understanding what they are and having a look at them properly. So this is one of those common challenges that I find across many agency owners, and I have this feedback from many agency owners. Many business people that I speak to also have a similar thing, and it's something that we do, and we can probably fix it really quickly, pretty much straight after listening to this session and using the resource I'm about to give you. But when I talk to agency owners about their goals, their business goals, we all pretty much just invent random stuff. And it'll be something like, I want to double my revenue. I want to double the size of my business. I want this many more employees, or I want this much more profit, or I want to move into this region, or whatever. It's just random stuff. But when I do the next question, when I ask the next question, I get a blank stare. Or I get a feedback like, what do you mean? And my next question usually to these business owners is, well, what does that look like? And I go, what do you mean? So what does your goal actually look like? Maybe they talk about, because they have been doing some visualization through some guidance from a coach or something like that. Maybe they start telling me all the things that they can buy with their new stage in business. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, what does it actually look like really in your business? So this is what we're going to talk about in this session. I don't care what your goal is. I don't care if you plucked it randomly, or you had a business coach help you achieve it, or your friends, or you were challenged, or whatever. I don't care what the goal is. What I do want you to get to in this session is understanding exactly what that goal looks like. So this is probably the time to go and grab your copy of the resource that I'm providing in this section. So there's a link either, depending on where you're seeing this video, there's a link either in the information section, the description area, or the comments, the first comment below if you're seeing it in a YouTube or something like that. But go grab your copy of this spreadsheet, and I only want you to focus on the first tab. Don't jump ahead to the other tabs if they're available. That's for later sessions, and I just don't want you to break this resource before you get to the stages in a logical fashion. So grab a copy, and what I want you to do though is make 4 copies of this resource. I want you to make a copy for where your business is today, a copy for your 1-year goal, a copy for your 3-year goal, and a copy for the end game of your business. So that would be great. Now, the actual resource, the first tab of the resource is basically a profit and loss. So I want you to start by filling out your profit and loss as it is today, maybe for the last period if it's in the financial year or in the calendar. If you've got or you could do it each month. So, but maybe do it for an annual period. That's what we tend to put our goals around. Fill it out as it is today. And then what I want you to do, and sorry, looking at the resource too, you have to fill in the green parts. So the green parts are the things that you edit. The yellow squares are what will be calculated automatically, and the blue squares will also be calculated automatically, but the blue squares are your results. So the yellow squares are your interim results, but the blue squares are your ultimate results. So in this case, the ultimate result is your profit and your margin. All right, so go and fill it out. And once you've filled it out, I want you to fill it out for your most pressing goal, whether it's the end game, whether it's the 1-year goal, which is probably most likely, but just fill it out for the 1-year goal and we can proceed. So just pause the video now, do the current state and your most pressing goal, and we can then go from there. So this is the example I'm going to use as a goal for this course. And the business goal is we're going to achieve, $1 million worth of revenue. It's a big goal for agencies. That's something that it seems to be one of the first things we aspire to. So with the revenue, I want you to split it up in your core revenue section. So I'll split this one up with website revenue, SEO revenue, and Google Ads. So then the next section is going to be our expenses. Now, obviously this is pretty easy to do with our current figures because it should be in your bookkeeping software. You need to extrapolate this out for the size of your business in each of your goals. This is critical. And this is what I mean by understanding exactly what your business looks like at your goal. What you need to be intimate with what your business is going to be when you hit these new goals. So saying I want to double my business, you need to think about, well, how many staff do I need to manage that amount of business? What kind of marketing is there? Do I need to change my CRM? Is our CRM going to cope with what we've got? So I want you to just have an estimate for, do I have to have bigger rental space? Do I need to change my rent? Or my office because I've got many more people? What's the actual business look like properly and to the best of your ability at that level of business? So I want you to go and fill that in you can pause the video now and fill that. Oh, sorry, let's just do the last section before we go on. And then the rest calculates out. So you've got a guide there that you can use to fill these fields in. So the answer here with your total cost, profit and margin will give you an idea if your idea of the business at the goal sizes is going to be profitable or not. And if it's not profitable, you have to rethink some of the things you got in your profit and loss here, your projected profit and loss. So you have to reduce some expenses. So go and finish that for at least, you might want to do it for all 4 timeframes: current, 1 year, 3 year, and ultimate goal. Maybe you just want to do one and come back to this video and then complete the others later, up to you. But definitely just pause the video here and fill out the current and at least one goal before you move on to complete the video. So completing the video, we have to realize that growth isn't easy. This is something that it's very easy to have intentions about growing, but it's not easy. And this little chart I've got here on the right of the screen is Gazelle's international coaches. This is a study that they put from them, and they've got $1 million, well, less than 1 million size businesses, which is 96% of the businesses. Greater than 1 million is 4%. 10 million plus is 0.4%, and 50 million is 1,700 business. I think this was in the US or something like that. You can find it online if you want to see this breakdown. But between each stage of growth, they've got this thing, the valley of death. And what the valley of death is talking about is the businesses that die on the growth path. For whatever reason, they go bankrupt or they liquidate or they just exit the industry because they can't make it to the next step. So, significant, like, it's not easy. You have to really plan these stages of growth. And I mean, everyone talks about how many entrepreneurs fail and how many businesses fail in the first year and the first 5 years and that kind of thing. But, significant portions of businesses fail trying to take these big steps of growth. So with that in mind, I just want to take us through some considerations to think when you're planning what you need to plan to hit your goals. So the first one is, what really should be my goal? One of the things that I find with all agency owners that I speak to about their goals, they always talk in terms of revenue. Now, revenue is great because it's a bigger number, makes us feel good. But if you sell your agency, you're going to sell it with a multiple of profit. Your buyer is going to price your agency based on profit, not on revenue. So maybe you should set your goal as far as revenue, with like a revenue figure. Maybe you should choose your goal based on your profit result rather than your revenue result. You might find this more financially rewarding. Also, if you have no idea where to start, great resource, Profit First by Mike McAllowitz. Go and read that book. But I strongly advise all the agencies I speak to is to set profit goals first and revenue goals to support them. All right, are my foundations sound? A lot of agency owners that I speak to, when they're choosing the prices for their products, they have a random thing like, I'm slightly above market rates, or I'm slightly less than market rates, or my business coach told me to charge more. That's the extent of their analysis and their strategy around pricing. And if that's what you've done, it's possibly a good way to go bankrupt really fast. There's more of a science with pricing, which we'll go through in the next session. But you need to price your products to support your growth and support your business. Do that in a scientific manner. All right, we often underestimate infrastructure costs. So we go and look at our goal, profit and loss. We need to be sure that our infrastructure is going to support our businesses, and that could be office space or time or co-work space if we do meetings and work remotely. That could be CRM costs, it could be process management software, it could be a whole bunch of things, but we need to get that right. Okay, how does our resourcing work through revenue variations? Once again, human resource costs are probably the biggest cost for digital agencies typically. And it's fine. It's easy to bring more resources in as we grow. But what happens if we go through a stage of decline where as businesses, we contract? How do we manage our human resources through that? Are they fixed costs? Are we stuck with people? Is there a really big burden to the business to contract our workforce as the business contracts through a recession? And if that does happen, how will that impact our cash flow? Because we need to plan for this, because it's our cash flow that's going to pay for our marketing. One of the things that happens often is we keep resources who aren't busy in our business, and then we stop doing marketing and we stop getting advice from coaches and advisors and things like that, which just doesn't help anyone. So we need to know how this works in our business and what the impact is to our long-term success. Are there major risks in the industry? At the recording of this, artificial intelligence has kind of come into our industry, or not kind of, has definitely come into our industry, but it's been about a year. I personally don't think that it's had a massive impact to digital agencies outside helping them become more efficient. But I do think that at some point, artificial intelligence will start taking agency work off agencies. So that's a major risk. How do we plan for that? And shiny objects. It's very rare a digital agency owner that I talk to that doesn't invest time and money into things that they think are a great idea at the time, and then 3 or 4 months down the track, they move to the next great idea at the time. So I think that's part of digital agency though. We're in the digital world and these things keep coming up and they do look great and they do look positive and sometimes they actually end up being great and positive for our businesses. So I don't think we shouldn't do this, but there is a way to deal with them. And what I suggest you do if you're a person who gets taken by shiny objects and keeps going away from your business objectives, lets them take away from your business objectives, what I suggest you do is put an R&D bucket in your profit and loss. Have an R&D, provision for money in your profit and loss, and price your personal time appropriately. So you know what the market rate for your time is per hour, and include that in your R&D expenditure. Now, chase your shiny objects up to that budget point and then stop. So you can put a budget for chasing shiny objects into your profit and loss. Be disciplined enough to stop when you hit that budget limit so it doesn't take your business into a direction other than the goal you set at the start of the period. I hope that makes sense. I hope I haven't upset you too much with your desire to chase these exciting things, but we can have the best of both worlds. We can chase them and we can keep our business growing and on track. So just wrapping up this session, understanding our goals is one of the most important parts of achieving a successful growth, achieving a goal in growth. So setting a goal is not enough. You really need to understand your goal intimately in regards to what it means for your business at that new level of revenue or that new level of profit, hopefully. To this point, what we've done is we've had a bit of a conversation about what it's all about. We have looked at our goals and try to work out exactly what our goal looks like for when we hit it. So we have a better understanding, more intimate understanding of our business at the level of activity, where we're at the place where we're aspiring to be. So it's one thing to have a look at the goal. Now we're going to make sure that our goal is going to work at that point. So let's get straight into the presentation. Remove some of these Zoom controls that are always in the way. I'll move my little face here because I know it's going to get in the way soon. But yeah, so guaranteed growth. The next piece of the puzzle is how does it all work? With a particular view of looking at pricing and making sure that the pricing in our business works to support the business and doesn't become a hindrance. So one of the common problems that I find digital agencies face, or a point that they get to, is that they tap out capacity-wise of resources, both time resource and cash or money resources at the same time. And that's a really difficult spot to be in because, well, if you, in your business, you run out of time that you're at capacity, but you've got a lot of money coming through because of the way you're spending that time, then you can buy more resources. You can hire someone, or you can use a resource partner to help you with fulfillment, and you get time back, which helps you go then to make inroads and strategy to get to the next level of business that you're looking for. Or if you run out of cash, but you've got plenty of time in your business, you can redeploy those hours to more sales work or more marketing work and drum up business to help you with the cash flow side of things. So, you can run out of, and it's quite common that you run out of one or the other, depending on whether your business is growing or in a state of decline based on economic or other factors. But if you've got one lever to pull, you should be sweet. So, if you hit capacity for both, the most common problem that this is that you're not pricing your business appropriately. So that's what we're going to look at today. All right. Excuse me. So how do we ensure our goal will work? Well, what we do is we price our unique value into everything we do so it becomes a reflection of our business. So it's interesting. On this point, most of the agencies I speak to, they will price their products as a function of some kind of market rate. So, a little bit above market rates, a little bit below market rates, what we think are market rates, or based on what a business coach told them to do. Oh, coach told me to raise them by 10% this year. But here's the thing. Most agencies struggle. They struggle to get cash into their business and profit into their business because I don't think they price properly. And I think that's the common cause of a lot of these issues. They don't price properly. So if we've got an industry that's not pricing properly and that makes an industry rate or an industry normal, and then you've got new entrants or existing entrants that are basing their prices off an industry rate, which is formulated randomly based on what everyone else in the industry is doing, and there's no science behind what anyone's doing or no strategy behind what anyone's doing. It's an industry of people in trouble. And my observation is that's kind of what the digital agency industry does. So this is my invitation to you, rather than look at what the industry does, price your products and services and time as a reflection of the unique value that you're offering. All right. I hope that made sense. Let's get into it. So how does your goal work? Let's make sure it works. For this session, we're going to go to the second tab of the resource that you have access to. So update in session 2, I asked you to fill out this profit and loss based on your current situation, your current profit and loss, 1-year goal, 3-year goal, and end game goal. I hope you did that and you've done that before you're doing this session, because we're going to build on that. So it's a really good idea to do the first run of this pricing exercise. Really good idea to do it based on your current business profit and loss, because that will give you a really good understanding of how it works, and I'll explain in a little bit why that's the case. And from there, you can extrapolate out for your goal levels of business. Okay, the profit and losses that you develop for your goals, your 1, 3, and end game goal. All right, so we're basically going to look at our costs. So I'm building on the example I used in session 2. You'll remember the costs were $919,000. Our aim goal revenue was $1 million. That was a good goal for most agencies, which left us with $71,000 of profit. I think it's that $81,000 of profit. Sorry, my maths on the spot has let me down. And you'll remember that that was an 8.1% margin. So this is the cost structure of the business that we were looking at session 2. Let's build on that. I'm going to use the same data throughout this whole exercise to keep everything consistent so it makes more sense. All right. So the first thing I want to do from here is understand what our capacity is to earn the money that we need to earn. Originally, it was $1 million. So I want to talk a little bit about, so this spreadsheet, the same as what I said last time. Green cells you have to update. That's something that you need to put your own data in. The yellow cells are calculating cells that give us information, and the answers we're looking for are in the blue cells. All right, so the first field here is full-time equivalent. The FTE stands for full-time equivalent billable employees. So let's talk about billable first. There are a bunch of people in your business. You might have an EA or a PA that does all your administration work and your bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff. That's not a billable resource. You might have marketing people and sales people in your business that are going and drumming up the business and winning the deals. That's not billable employees. And then you've got employees that work on the projects and the services that you're supplying your clients, where your clients pay for them. That's a billable employee. So that could be someone who you're charging per hour and you're getting paid per hour for that work, billable employee. Or it could be someone who's working on a project like a website, a website that you're getting paid a lump sum for, but you've got a web developer that's working on that project, that's a billable employee. So I hope that makes sense for billable. Now, a full-time equivalent is the number of hours that makes up one full-time person. So for rough numbers, this might not be perfect in your business, in your location, but rough numbers, let's say there's 40 hours in a week, 40 working hours in a week, 4 weeks in a month. On average, that's 160 hours makes one full-time equivalent person. So 160 hours, maybe you have 2 people doing 80 hours each. That's not 2 people, that's one full-time equivalent. It's 2 resources, a headcount of 2 who are doing one full-time equivalent role. If you have 4 people working a week, you have week 1 person, week 2 person, week 3 person, week 4 person, that's still one full-time equivalent. If you have a resource, sometimes with our virtual assistants, they want to work an extra week in the month, so they'll do overtime at a normal rate for us, but they will do an additional 40 hours on the 160 and get paid for those hours. So they do 200 hours a month. That'd be 1.25 full-time equivalent employees. So I hope that makes sense. Full-time equivalent, how many hours in your business get worked every month divided by how many hours one full-time person would do. So I want you to work that out for your current level of business and put that in the full-time equivalent billable employees section. So it has to be full-time equivalent hours plus only working on work that clients are paid for. They have to be billable. Don't include anyone who's working on stuff that isn't directly paid for by employees. So I hope that makes sense. I know a little bit of a drawn out explanation, but I hope that makes sense. So the next green field is utilization rate. And what this is a ratio or a percentage of your full-time equivalent people's time out of all the hours they spend, how much are they actually spending on the project or client work? A lot of us, you probably don't actually have this information at your fingertips. And the idea is not to have an estimate that makes you feel good about things. The idea is to try to get truth and put this into the model. Because this is one of those, in consulting firms and, law firms and places like that, this is something that's measured aggressively and measured correctly, and it becomes a part of the business model and the revenue earning possibilities of the business. And we don't tend to measure this very well as digital agencies, but it's a lever we can pull. And it is information that we can put into strategy if we get it right. So quite often through this course, I'll ask you to go and get some information. The idea is not to feel good. Don't give yourself information that feels good if it's incorrect. If you get what's real, you have a lever to pull and you can make wise decisions with your business. If you get stuff that makes you feel good that doesn't reflect reality, you're not going to make wise decisions. So go and find out what your utilization rate is. Most people, when I speak about it first, they estimate it's 80 to 90%, and that's a joke. I've never met a business where it has billable resources at 80 or 90%. I even think 60%, which I have here, the 0.6. I think that's overestimating most businesses. But get the correct figure. You may need time tracking software. You may need some kind of new process to get it accurate and keep up to date with it. It's really good information to know. All right, the last field was your margin, how much profit you want to make. Obviously, I have decimals, a ratio here rather than percentage, but 0.15 is 15%. So 15% margin on the cost structure that we had has given us a total revenue required to pay for that cost structure, including the margin of $1,056,850. So you remember our original work yesterday, we had a $1 million revenue target. The difference here is that I've manipulated in a 15% margin, whereas yesterday, based on the revenue minus the expenses, we had a 8.1% margin. So the increase, and that's a pretty relevant goal. I think 8% as a margin on $1 million business is quite slim. It's not a lot. That could be one or two projects that go wrong in the course of an entire year that wipe out all your profit for the year. So I think aiming for a little bit of a healthier profit is good. But yeah, so having updated these figures, saying I've got 6 full-time equivalent billable employees to work on paid client work, 60% of their time is used on average on client work, and the other 40% of their time is on coffee breaks or doing social media or doing their banking or just chatting with staff or in meetings with management or explaining things to trainees and all that kind of stuff that comes into business. And with a desired margin of 15%, that means with the employees we currently have, need to earn $1,056,850 to pay for the cost structure that we had in our model, which was $919,000 of costs. Now, the yellow fields we've got. So yellow fields, total weeks. In this model that I'm showing today, I'll base the total weeks based on Australian employee entitlements, which gives them 4 weeks of annual leave a year and 2 weeks of sick leave. So it's based on 46 weeks. So 6 times 46 should equal 276. Working through total hours that they have available to them is 10,488 hours. At the utilization rate of 0.6 or 60%, gives 6,292.8 hours of billable time to earn the $1,056,850. Now that to work, for those 6,292 hours or 92.8 hours, we have to charge a minimum of $167.95. So if we charge anything less than that 167.95, we're not going to hit our revenue target. And it feels like a lot. A lot of agencies I know, even the owners, are charging themselves $85 an hour or $100 or $96 or whatever. And they haven't even done this exercise. So if you're charging $85 an hour, it's going to be impossible to hit the revenue you need and the margin you need to cover even these costs that you've got for your business model. So this is really, really important to understand. You need to understand how many billable, full-time equivalent billable employees you have, how much of their time is spent on client work, build in your margin, and then you're going to then you'll be able to get your minimum hourly rate. So the total revenue required is just 15% on the $919,000. And if you think that 167.95 is too much to charge, you can play with some of these other levers. Like you can force utilization rate to go up. Just really manage a lot tighter. Maybe that goes up to 0.7, or you can reduce the margin back down to 8.1% was to get the $1 million revenue limit, and then your minimum hourly rate will reduce. So, but really important to know and really important to build into your strategy. Okay, the next step is, that's really handy to know if all we do is charge hours. If we charge hours, job done, in a consulting basis, but quite often we also have products like SEO and web development and Google ad management and social media and so forth. So to work out minimum product pricing, I've got the next field here. Once again, you've got 3 green fields to build your pricing into or to put information into. You've got a couple of calculators and your final answer. But so most of these products that we supply will be a function of our cost structure for these products will be a function of the time we spend in our business on them, and there might be hard costs. Sometimes the hard cost will be contractor times, or like a fulfillment partner like us at Globital will have a set price for a 20 keyword SEO product, which combined with, in this example, we're saying 3 hours of your fulfillment team your team that is working on client work. And those internal hours could be, quality checks, reporting, client services. That gives you the cost structure of this product. Sometimes it's just hours. It might be straight reseller product where all you have is the hard cost per unit and you don't have any internal hours, which would be cool. But this model will give you the chance to put both fields in, information for both. So we're just theoretically saying we've outsourced SEO, $330 for this package that goes to the resource partner. Takes us 3 hours internally to manage our clients and to manage the product outside and on top of the resource partner. So the 3 hours of work at the minimum rate of $167.95 gives us so the 3 hours, $167.95 plus the $330 hard costs give us a break-even price of $833.84. So if we're charging, if that's what it takes internally, and we're charging less than the $833.84, we're not going to hit our 15% margin. And the further we are below $833.84, we could even be making a loss. So this is important because a lot of times we strike a price based on the $330, but we forget about the internal hours, or we balance the internal hours by doing it ourselves as a business owner and don't count it. And we don't even realize we're making a real loss in our business because we balance the books based on, overtime or sneaky time or whatever, or time we're not managing for ourselves, which is great when we're smaller agencies, but it's not a model we can grow with. So the $833.84, it's not kind of break even, it's break even with a 15% margin. So it means we're going to make a 15% profit after covering our costs across the board of the business, hard costs and variable costs. And then the last field is putting in our retail price. So we can play the retail price and then see if it's, as we put in prices above the break-even price, that's extra money in our pocket. That's just straight profit over and above the 15% margin that we've already worked in. So hope that one makes sense. One of the things that most agencies find is that this is a bit shocking going through this. They realize that they're drastically under pricing or pricing too low, and they need to make pretty urgent, immediate adjustments to their pricing, which is fine, and just go and do it. But the real value of this exercise is recognizing that, so you can build a stronger business model and you don't have this unknown leakage of value out of your business. You don't run out of money because you didn't realize that internal hours was 3, you only thought it was 1, and now that an employee is doing it, it is actually 3, because you were doing it on your lunch break or as an extra hour after work. Measuring it properly gives you the right result, means you can make wise decisions. All right, I've just got a last little calculator at the end here, which just gives you a bit of an insight as to how your whole year works. So if our costs are $919,000 and our break-even rate with the 15% margin is $167.95, it takes 5,472 hours through the year to break even at that 919,000 plus the margin, which gives you 136.8. Sorry, actually this one isn't the margin. This one is just the $919,000. So to make that $919,000 and cover your costs, 5,472 hours. We have 136.8 billable hours per week based on our team and their utilization rate, which means we break even at week 40. So we pay off our cost of the business at week 40. And if you remember what I mentioned earlier, we're only suggesting 46 working weeks of the year. So we actually make profit in the last 6 weeks of the year. A little bit scary, but those last 6 weeks are just profit. There's no cost involved at all. But it's really interesting. It's really important to know that too. It's a lever you can work with. So that's our business model for today. I'd really like you to first fill out that spreadsheet based on what your business is doing today and get a really good understanding of your minimum price that you should be charging per hour and the minimum price you should be charging for the different products you're selling that have other bits and pieces in it. And pretty much as soon as you can, if you need to adjust up, at least adjust up for new clients, and then see over time if you can increase your existing clients up to that break-even point too. All right, so that's the modeling. Just like everything in business, things don't always go to plan. So where pricing goes wrong, here's just observations about industry where pricing goes wrong. Firstly is no strategy. We've already talked about that. We just pick something random like market rates to set our prices with no thought as to what we're doing. We forget to include margins into our prices. The model I've given you here, the spreadsheet, has a spot to put margins in. What happens if we forget to put margins in is we tend to price things to break even, which isn't good, and one mistake in the year puts us into a loss. There are hidden incidences of revenue and resource allocations that we either deliberately don't add or unknowingly don't add. Some of these are internally resourced marketing. So, we have our internal teams doing our own marketing. You should measure that as a service at market rates to understand the full utilization of your staff. So if part of their mandate as employees is to work on your internal marketing, you should be measuring the value of that too when you're working at things like utilization rate. Owner hours. As owners, we should be the most expensive resource in our business. Quite often what we are instead is like owners of time that we use to balance the books. So we use our own time to balance the books of the business rather than recording them correctly. And that messes up our modeling and it messes up our ability to plan, because we do things like price based on all the other stuff minus the hours we're putting in. So when we get an employee to take over our role, the hours required to do the job aren't included in the pricing. So you should have a price on your hours. When you're doing work like SEO or coding or whatever, your pricing for those hours should be commensurate for the job. So if you're doing coding, price yourself at the same value that you would charge for one of your coders in your business, and put that into your modeling and put that into your pricing and all that kind of stuff. Helping people, giving away freebies. We all do that. We have our neighbor who just wants some help. We want all these people that just want to buy us a coffee and pick our brains. Someone's got a problem, like an urgent problem with their website, and they just need someone to fix it. So we do that for them for free. If you want to do that, fine. Measure it, put it into your books, put it into your pricing. We overestimate utilization rates. I mentioned that already. So that's one of the key leakages of value out of our business. We think that our employees are working 95 or 90 or 85% of their time on billable work, and they're not. It's probably more 55 to 60%. So understand that, understand what it is, understand when you know what the base rate is that you're doing, you can use it as a lever, put it into your pricing properly, but use it as a lever for improvement. If you put it into your modeling, you can do one or two things. As you improve, you can actually capture more value yourself, or it gives you the opportunity to be a bit more competitive with your pricing. But that's a choice you have. You don't have that choice if you're thinking people are working 80% of their time on client work and they're only doing 60. That's going to get you into a world of hurt. And we forget about things like bad debt. I mean, if you've never had a client default on your debt, I wish I was you. Well done, good work. But the longer we're in business, we're going to always. I don't know a business owner who hasn't had someone default on an outstanding invoice or just default on work done. And if we don't put that into our modeling, that can become a problem later on too. So it might be as simple as just doing some estimates. It might be as simple as having a look what happened last year and working out a percentage and then applying that going forward. But not including that into our figures can cause us problems. All right, so if you enjoyed going through that and it kind of resonated, we do have a more in-depth pricing strategy course at Globital University. The link's there at the bottom of the page. But if you just search Globital University on Google, it's pretty easy to find. And the digital agency pricing strategy is one of the courses there. Hope you enjoy it. Critical intelligence and your goal will start with. So the third piece of the puzzle, we've got our goals. We understand intimately what they look like. We recognize we've done the work around the foundations of making sure the business support those goals. And now we're looking at the critical intelligence that we need to know along the path of achieving our goals, what we need to do to actually get there. So one of the points with this is if we know what the journey is ahead, it really is going to give us a much better chance of achieving the destination. If we just have this thing that's out there and we don't think about the journey at all, it's pretty unlikely that we're going to reach where we need to reach. So we want to, through clarity, give ourselves the absolute best chance, as close to guarantee as possible, to hit the goals that we set. And we do that by mapping the journey carefully and understanding what we need to do to get there. And then it's just execution. So let's have a look at the parameters of our goal, intelligence around what our business is doing today, and how we can understand from what it's doing today what we need to do to get our goals. All right, so once again with this resource, same protocol, green fields you need to fill in. Yellow are calculators and the blue ones are the results we want to get out at the end of the exercise. So let's have a look. We're going to start with the column called current, which is our current state. Now using the modeling that I've been using for this run through, the $1 million revenue was our initial goal with our initial profit and loss. What I'm saying is that's the goal we're working towards. It's not our current state. Our current state, for the purposes of this exercise, is a hypothetical $667,000 was what we're saying our revenue was in the preceding period, and we want to grow to $1 million. So working down the column for current, I just want to fill in all the data for what our previous period was, which we're calling current. So for this example, what I'm saying is that to achieve $667,000 worth of revenue, we did that with 42 clients. Now, those 42 clients had 59 projects that were running. So for example, some of the clients were just an SEO client, but some of them had SEO and Google Ads, or maybe a web development project and SEO. So some of them had 2, maybe 1 or 2 of them had 4, and so forth. So that's the reason of that. And the last thing that I wanted to fill in was I wanted to go to our CRM and just have a look at the number of leads we've got in the database. How many people can we, through our lead generation activities, how many contacts have we stored that we can actually contact? And for the sake of this example, 2,106. All right, so just working through the output of the current column, what we're saying is we've got 42 clients and 59 projects over the last 12 months. That gives us an average of 1.4 projects per client. That's something in our modeling that we're not going to change. We're just going to assume that stays the same. That's the way our business works. All right, so we've got 59 projects into $667,000. Dividing that through gives us an average dollars per project of $11,305.08. That's our current dollars per project over a 12-month period. That's a decent period. So we can say that that's our average. That's what we kind of do in business. And we'll keep that as a set value also. All right, so 2,106 leads in the database to 42 clients. Our conversion rate from those leads is 1.99%. So we're currently converting leads that come into our database from, so that's just 42 divided into 2,106. So we're converting 2% of our leads to clients at the moment based on what is in our business at the moment. We're going to say that that's our sales ratio. We're getting leads from all over the place. Some of them convert better to others. We're not care that referrals convert at 30%. What we're saying is across the board, from referrals and lead magnets and Facebook posts and SEO leads and so forth and so forth and so forth, we generate them well, but 2% go through the sales funnel and end up as a client who pays us. That's a piece of data that we're going to keep consistent also. So our figures for our business in the previous period, which we have results for, are $667,000. Our business is this. Our business is a $667,000 revenue business, which has 42 clients and 59 projects. And we built that out of a database of 2,106 leads, giving us a lead to client conversion of 1.99% and $11,305 per project and 1.4 projects per client. Hope that makes sense. All right, now we're putting, they're going across the revenue line. What we're doing is putting $1 million, which is our goal. So we're updating that, and then having updated that, this spreadsheet will give you every bit of information about what you need to achieve to hit your goal. So going across for revenue, we need $333,000 more to hit our $1 million revenue goal. It's a gap of 49.93%. Let's just say 50%. All right, so things that we assume will not improve for this modeling is projects per client will be 1.4. Our conversion rate of leads to client is 1.99%. And our dollars per project is $11,305.08. That's what our business does. So we're going to say they stay the same. So based on this, to hit our $333,000 of additional revenue to hit our goal, we need to build our clients to 63 clients. We need to build our projects based on the 1.4 projects per client at $11,305 per project. We need to build our projects to 88. So the gaps there are we need 21 more clients, which will give us 29 more projects, which will give us the $333,000. All right, so here's where it gets a bit more important. At a lead conversion of just under 2%, we actually in our database need 3,157 new leads over the next period. Total leads, which gives us 1,051 new leads. So we need to get 1,051 new leads, which will give us 3,157 leads in our database. At the 1.99% conversion rate of lead to client will give us 21 new clients. 1.4 projects per client gives us 29 projects at $11,305.08, gives us our $333,000 of revenue, which hits our goal. So we need 1,051 leads, basically, with this intelligence. All right, I hope that makes sense. It's pretty logical mathematics. If maths isn't your thing, just run through it a couple of times, and because it's really important that we know. So ultimately, what we need to know is we need to get 1,051 more leads, and that's it. All things staying the same. Now, one thing I know with business is that all things don't stay the same. Every journey has unexpected turns. I think doing this, I'm 2 years on the other side of the whole COVID journey. So there was certainly an unexpected turn that no one thought about, but every journey has unexpected turns. So let's just think about some of these. Firstly, as I mentioned before, I'm not sure that this analysis should be driven by profit. I think based on the fact that digital agencies are priced when they get sold as they're priced based on profit. So they should not be, the analysis shouldn't be driven by revenue, as that's what we've done all the way through. I think they should be driven by profit. I think profit should be your goal, because that's what digital agencies are priced as. They're priced as a multiple of profit, not multiple of revenue. And to be honest, when your business is making profit, it's a lot more fun. You can have all the revenue in the world and still not pay your mortgage off, still not pay for your rent, because you haven't got profit and you're not paying yourself properly. So focus on profit, I think, is always a better goal. Okay, sales process. Do you have a sales process? You know, one of the 1.99% conversion rate from leads into the funnel into sales, kind of depends on a sales process that's consistent, that's measured. If you don't have that, you probably need to put that in. Probably find your conversion rate improves if you do that. And if it doesn't straight up, you'll probably find that you have a bunch of opportunities to make it improve by measuring and improving your sales process. So you need a tight sales process. As you scale, one of the things you need to do is scale your leads. Now, unfortunately, leads tend to get less qualified as we scale. We start with what we know. We start with referrals, with people we know. Then we start with what we know. Like, for example, if I'm a Google Ads person, I'll start with Google Ads because I know how that works. And then we get less qualified. We go into social media. Then we have to bring in other people who we don't know, outbound salespeople and so forth. And things just tend to get less qualified as we scale. So that's often a problem with our numbers. Conversion rates can drop. Now, once again, I haven't put anything around client loss in here. So this modeling is based on the new clients that we need to hit our target. So as we lose clients, they need to be replaced also. So as we need to replace clients, which means we need more clients, that means we need more leads to build those clients. So we need to actually consider that in depth, measure it, and make sure we make the adjustments to our modeling to include clients we've lost. Now, as we do lose clients too, sometimes they come in a bunch. And if we don't have a way to adjust our costs down with revenue as it drops, that can make a big impact on our ability to get new clients because we have less money to do things like Google Ads. And we cut marketing when things get tight. It's just something that all small businesses tend to do, and it's probably the last thing they should cut. Be that as it may, it tends to happen. So, the two biggest fixed costs you probably have in your agency is, lease payments or rent and your human resource cost. If you can find a way to align those costs with your revenue, you'll have a much stronger business model. Fixed costs kill businesses. So obviously, Globital as a resource partner is a really good way to align your human resource costs with your revenue costs or with your revenue coming in. As revenue drops, you're not left with excess capacity in your business with human resource payroll that you have to pay, that kind of thing. You can just switch off your projects and reduce your human resource costs at the same time. So now with this modeling too, I made it pretty clear that we're saying we've got some set pieces of data which we're going to, for the sake of modeling, we'll keep static. So things like the cost or the revenue per project and the projects per client and the lead to client conversion, they're fixed in our modeling, but they're data points that we can actually work at improving. So, if we work hard at our sales process and all of a sudden we're producing 3% conversion of our leads to clients, then everything gets a lot easier. We can filter that through the modeling and see what happens on the other side. Or if our projects per client goes from 1.4 to 2.5, that's a pretty good opportunity to get to our goal a lot quicker too. So don't treat this model as what you have to do. Treat it as intelligence in your business to understand the things that you can improve that are going. So everything's a lever that you can improve to help you get to your goal faster. The model's just a model. All right. So one thing to note on that note is that performance often deteriorates with growth because we get busy with other things. And also, as I mentioned before, lead quality can drop. But to scale, which is what we want, it demands those levers to improve. So you should be able to do more with less as you grow. So that should be a focus, something that you think about and focus on. All right, so I'm going to go through the next tab, which is critical intelligence and your business. First one was intelligence around your goal. This one we're looking at intelligence around your business. So this was tab 4 on your resource. And we just need to think about what else do we need to know. There's one more thing we need to know. And this is where we get to be marketers. So all the data that you tell your clients that they should keep and measure and that kind of stuff, we're going to make sure we measure that ourselves. So final tab is basically what we want to do is work out our cost per acquisition per lead. Now, you need to be really honest with yourself with this. You need to get a really true picture with this, or otherwise you're basically like, if this isn't a feel-good spreadsheet, this is a, let's be honest, so we can make wise decisions spreadsheet. So in my $1 million goal that I had, you can go back to that original video and have a look. I had $120,000 put aside there for marketing. Now, there's a whole bunch of things in marketing. When we're trying to work out cost per acquisition, we pretty commonly just look at something like, Google Ads, cost per acquisition, but that doesn't give us a true figure. We look at that and take that because that's easy to access data that Google gives us. But we put a lot more into cost per acquisition, into our marketing spend in our businesses than just what Google gives us access to. So, some of the things that I've added here is, do we have a marketing team? Their wages need to go into this data. Are we doing our own SEO or our own Google Ads? So those self-fulfilled services into this cost per acquisition marketing bucket, we need to know and price them as if we're selling them retail and put that into our analysis. So if we're selling SEO campaigns at $750, we need that $750 into our marketing expense on our profit and loss and included into this analysis. So as a business owner, your hours, if you're doing, Google Ads consulting or management, how much would you charge a client for that? Put that into our marketing analysis. Communities and memberships. Are you involved with a BNI or a Chamber of Commerce or anything else, or like a digital marketer or any other organizations that help you generate leads or introduce you to partners or anything like that? That needs to be included. Advertising, obviously, software, obviously, your CRM, that type of thing. Give you a really good understanding of what your marketing spend is. There are probably other things you can think of. Maybe you've got a blue tick on a Twitter or on a Instagram because that's important. The costs around that need to be included. So, but the idea is be as ruthless as you can with this. Get a really good understanding of your total marketing bill each month or for the financial year. And then fill in the number of leads that marketing budget generates. So in this case, this is a monthly figure. We had 120,000 for the year divided by 12 months gives us 10,000 budget. Split up into all those different buckets. We got 35 leads in the last month. That gives us a cost per acquisition of $285.71. That's 35 into 10,000. $285.71 that costs us to get each lead. And I kind of think that's kind of reasonable for our industry. I know it's a little bit expensive to get leads in our industry. So go through that process. As I mentioned, we're not supposed to feel good about this data. We're supposed to get a true reflection of what our business is doing so we can make wise decisions about where to go from here. All right, cool. So things we're measuring we miss when we measure our own marketing. We don't update it, so we're looking at old data. Things change rapidly. Team members subscribe to new subscriptions and leads drop off when we expand them. So we need to look at them every month and have an understanding of how they move during the year and have an understanding of the total over the year. And also, if we're looking at them every month, we get an idea of when the situation's changing, when circumstances and the trading environment is changing, which is important. Mentioned a few times retail value of our own services when we conduct on our business to get a true understanding of the cost for our business. To be very ruthless there, and the market value of our own time. So I don't think it's a good idea that as a business owner you say I'm worth $500 an hour and every time you spend an hour in the business you put that figure in. I think if you're doing Google Ads work, whatever the market rate or whatever you charge a client for your staff to do Google Ads work, you put that figure in, but you do have to record it to get an understanding of the value of your time in your own marketing. Don't use your hours as a balancing item to make things look good. That's what we often do. It's a real good idea to do that if you want to have a business that never really goes anywhere because you don't know what's going on. So the goal is not to look good, it is to get accurate information so you can make wise decisions about your business. When I actually learned this, when Murray Delmeda seeded this idea in my mind, it really changed everything. I saw it immediately, excitedly, as the missing piece to everything I've been doing in business. So I hope it has a similar impact on you when you go through this last day. And also know that having learnt this, you're probably one of the 5 or 10% of business owners that actually consider this and know about how this works. So it puts you in an elite group of people with business knowledge. So congratulations for you spending the time in upskilling your business wisdom and business knowledge, and also giving your business the benefit of this type of planning and the blessing to maximize your chances to hit your goals. So really looking forward to going through this last step with you, and let's get into it. So sharing my screen and removing these Zoom controls. Let's get into it. So guaranteed growth, let's put it all together. All right, this is the full puzzle. So what we're now going to do is look at a thing called capitalization, and that's the thing that most business owners know nothing about. But a quick recap: we've set our goal and we got to know the numbers around that goal quite intimately. We did some work understanding how our pricing fits in with that and make sure what we're selling does support our goals at a foundational level. We looked at the difference from where we are now to where we want to go and what we need to do. And then we had a look at our marketing figures to understand how much our marketing costs. All right, so let's crystallize our vision and complete this circle to create the foundation of execution that we can run from here. All right, so last tab on the spreadsheet, what will your goal cost? And that's what we want to look at, what your goal costs. So the first section is you don't have to touch anything. Same protocols, you only touch the green squares. But we started at $667,000 revenue with a goal to reach 1 million, which is a 333,000 gap. Conversion rate is 1.99%. With cost per acquisition of lead, $285.71. We all completed all that last session. With a requirement to hit our goal of 1,051 new leads, which will turn at our conversion rate into 21 clients, and our projects per client rate at 29 projects. Average dollar per project, bit over $11,000, will give us our 333,000. We calculated all that out in the last session. So key things before the next step I want you to be aware of: 1,051 leads. We need those leads at our current conversion rate to get our clients. So we need to get 1,051 leads. And our cost per acquisition of a lead is $285.71. So multiplying those out, we need to spend $300,406 to buy, with our current marketing, the 1,051 leads. So we need to invest 1,051 times 285 per lead, which is going to cost $300,406. So this is a shock to most agency owners when they actually realize how much their goal is going to cost given their current run rate in marketing. So we're saying $25,000 a month. Now, I don't know if you remember with my modeling, but I had $120,000 set for the year, not $300,000, which was $10,000 a month. This is 150% more, not $10,000, $25,000. So, this is the problem of setting goals on a whim with no analysis behind it. Well, where did that $1 million come from? Who knows? Like, someone just said, I've got a 7-figure agency, so now that's my goal. Set it at a whim, didn't look at anything, and then I get to the end of the year and I'm all upset that, I might have grown, but I didn't hit my goal, but I didn't even know what it was going to cost. So, and this is what capitalization is. Capitalization is how much is your business going to cost to get to the goals or get the growth that you want. most businesses who fail because they're undercapitalized. They don't have enough capital to do what they're trying to do. And you're never going to have enough capital to do what you need to do if you don't know what that capital requirement is. So this exercise that I've just given you has given you the business wisdom and business intelligence to actually work out how much money your business needs to succeed as it is today, and also to hit your goals. So this is the key to a long-term successful business, long-term growing business. This is the piece of the puzzle that everyone misses. This is the reason why all that data we collect as marketers have a bigger purpose than just the tactical stuff we do as marketers. This is why we never really pay attention to our figures, but knowing this now, you can see how important and how powerful it is. So let's keep going with this model. I've just realized with shock, to get my $1 million, I have to spend, $180,000 more than what I budgeted for. So the problem with this though, now I've got to realize, is that if I put $300,000 in my budget for the $1 million business, I only had $81,000 of profit. So if I had an extra $180,000 in marketing, all of a sudden I've made a $100,000 loss because of my marketing requirements to hit my goal. So that's a problem. Like I've got to take this figure and I've got to, complete the circle. I've got to go back to my original modeling and put this new figure in, and then start the process again. So, what I could do is I could go and put this extra marketing in my budget, then go to the pricing page, the pricing tab, and work out, with the extra marketing, what the required revenue to hit my new level of cost is going to be, which will be, if I'm going from the 991,000 plus 180, that's probably 1,000 or 1,100,000, over $1,100,000 in expenses. What my new to cover the cost, and we can possibly do it just by increasing our prices if the market would tolerate that. So maybe pricing will get there and then it'll be fine. Put it into your budget and work through the pricing model and make sure that sustains the higher level of costs that you're going to need to charge to pay for the marketing to hit your goal. And it's not always that easy. So the next little column here I've got too is we've got a green space here where we've actually put and play with our marketing budget and just see what the outcome is here. So our original budget was $120,000 a year. Now, against the analysis we've done of what we need to hit our target of $1 million, we needed 63 clients. With our $120,000 investment in marketing, we're only going to get to 50, so we'll be 13 short. We needed 88 projects, we're only going to get 71, and at 71 projects at our, average 11,000, whatever it was, value per project, we're only going to hit $800,000 of revenue this year. Now, still pretty good growth on 667. Maybe we're just happy with that, and maybe that becomes our new target. And as per the last session we did, session 4, maybe we can go back and start playing with the other levers, like improving conversion rates, improving the cost per, or the revenue per project, projects per client, and maybe get closer to our target through some of those other levers. And maybe the answer is somewhere in the middle. So maybe we can play with this marketing budget and get it. Maybe it's 150, 180, 200,000. Maybe we can afford something like that. But whenever we adjust this, you have to go full circle. Go back to your goal, profit and loss. Put the added expense in the goal, profit and loss. Update your pricing if you have to. Understand what your minimum pricing is. Get a really good picture of the ultimate path to hitting your goal. So once we know that, quite often we're left with this last final question, is how are we going to pay for it? And as I mentioned right at the start of this course, about 80% of businesses are undercapitalized. And they probably don't know this is a thing, but it causes business failure. Undercapitalization is one of the biggest causes of business failure. People don't run out of or make they don't go bankrupt. They just ran out of cash, and they can't complete the task they set in front of them because they didn't know how much cash they needed. If they had enough cash, they could probably get there, but they just don't know how much, and they run out and it's finished. Game over. So when we know how much our goal costs, all we need to do to achieve our goal is work out how to pay for it. So, once you've gone through and worked out how much the goal costs, put it into your profit and loss to see what the outcome is at your desired level of margin, whether it's 15% or 20% or whatever. Work out the pricing that the industry can support. If pricing can do it all, that's awesome. If it can't, you have to think about other ways to support the goal, other ways to raise capital to capitalize your goals. And here's some ideas. So, client receipts, that's the pricing question. And maybe if you can do it simply with your client receipts straight away, maybe it's an idea to push yourself for a bigger goal. Maybe if you've got the capital in your business today and there's no problem and there might be some slacking, maybe you can actually try to push a bit further. Business optimization, all those levers that we've discussed over the last 4 sessions, what can be optimized there to get a better result? Reinvesting profits. So if you take profits and reinvest into marketing, you need to do it in a way that represents what it is in your business. You don't want to do it in a way that your 15% margin just becomes marketing expense. So you need to take the profit out to keep your business healthy, reinvest it as a loan, and then pay yourself back later. And that's probably the best way to do it, and pay yourself interest as if it was a bank loan, so it looks like a proper business transaction. So that's the way to do that properly. If you just turn profits into an expense, you'll never have a profitable business and you'll never be able to sell it. Like, you need 3 years of solid profit to be able to sell a business and get good value. Taking the profit out and reinvesting as something and as a loan, that will work better than just not taking profit and creating marketing expense. Personal savings, exactly the same. Treat it as the loan. Don't just sap your personal finances and your personal capital and let it get absorbed into your business. Report for it properly. Obviously, you have commercial loans then, equity partners, bring an investor in, and time. All these previous ideas are ideas around getting money in, but that 300,000 or so I had to spend to fund the marketing to get the goal. That's the 120,000, but over 3 years. So maybe my goal becomes a 3-year goal rather than a 1-year goal, and then I can invest it within the client receipts that I'm currently getting. And I hope you get to use it as often as I do. I still use the spreadsheet resource that I've offered you in this course. So I use this every year. And good luck. I hope you smash your goals.